Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Aravind to deliver the keynote on the impact of code generation on the automotive software development.
Will be available on the link that I'm going to share, so you don't have to worry about taking pictures of the slides. So the full high resolution information, just do a QR code, scan, and you'll be able to get the information. Sometime today, later, I'll post it up. So, Mr. Brahmanand was talking about how SDV is not just a technology change, it's a mindset change. And earlier in the panel, Shinzo Joseph made a very bold statement, we don't need any more coders. It's true. I mean, it's a bold statement, but it is actually a true statement. So what I'm going to spend in the next 20 minutes is giving you a context of how the software industry has evolved in the last 3 decades. What is the change that's imposed upon us? Just so that you know, if you are a developer or if you are a team manager of a team of developers, and if you haven't felt the seismic shift that AI has brought in, then you will be caught shocked or surprised. So to give a simple analogy, if there is an earthquake in the middle of an ocean, for a tsunami to hit the land, it's going to take some time, but it's happened already. The seismic shift has happened. Or to give a more positive analogy, probably when the sun is rising on the hill, the sunlight, it takes a while for it to hit the valley, right? So that shift has already happened, that change has happened. It is for us as leaders on how we are reacting. A quick look back at the story, right? If you look at the Gen 1 software developers back in the 90s, each of these software developers knew hardware so well. They knew the entire system very well. So a single person could be, was knowledgeable to cover the complete end-to-end system all the way to the user experiences. Then as and when things progressed, you started seeing this role getting further and further compartmentalized. You started seeing this role coming in terms of a primary code execution, a coder being born. There was a senior developer and a technical lead who was looking at the overall design, but the actual hands-on coding was offshore to some people. Or sometimes, of course, within of your own organization, it was given to a junior developer. Then further, in the last 2 decades, it's gotten further fragmented, where you have specialist coders who are only focused on how do I write clean code. Then you have people who are looking at how do I integrate this. Then you have people who are looking at how the feature works. And then, of course, you have the architects. This is further fragmentation, right? This is exactly where we are right now, right? Now map this back into your own organizations. This is the organization that all of us are living in, right? So in this organization, when I really look at the bottommost of the pyramid, you have a bunch of junior developers, fresh people coming out of college. They still need to get trained is what we think, and we give them enough room buffer. Complete proper specifications is given to them. Okay, now go code. This is where they fit into our pyramid, right? But this is the largest base that we have, by the way. Second is the mid-level developer who understands enough of coding, but they are focused on how do you make sure you apply coding standards properly, how do you ensure there is standards being followed, whichever standards has been picked up in your organization. Then you have the next level developer who's looking at more of a design and architecture, right? So, and then you have the tech leads. The tech leads is understanding the feature, the way it works end to end. So today the way work is getting dispensed in a software development team is you have the pointer is not so you have really the tech leads who are designing the end-to-end system, the user experience, they understand the feature on how it works. They give it into some sort of an architecture diagram. Then you have the senior developers breaking it down into further design modules. Then you have the senior developers working with the junior developers to finish the coding, make it clean coding, make the unit testing happening, and deliver the code, right? Now with the advent of AI, what has happened, right? So this lowest segment is nothing but a glorified translator. What's a translator? If you're looking at, a Tamil, you give a message, you're converting that to another language, Marathi, converting that to Kannada. It's just translating the same content into different modes of consumption, right? So these junior coders are just taking an algorithm and converting that back into a code that is actually usable, C, C++, Java, whichever language that you are working in, right? The mid-level developer is really a rules applicator. A rules applicator is, I have a certain set of standards I need to follow in my organization, and I'm going to follow that, make sure it is applied consistently. The third is compatibility. I have a module from a server, I have a module at the UI, I need to put this together. Is the interface matching fine? Are you sending integer? Am I getting text? Is it basically an object? This is what we're looking at mid-level, right? Now look at it. Once AI comes in, this whole segment just vanishes. Because if you do the prompt engineering adequately, you feed it the right prompts, it generates the code for you. So where is this need for the coder anymore? Oh, by the way, when it generates the code, you can actually put a proper context to the AI agent, which will develop it based on your organizational standards. Once it's developing each of these systems, putting it together, it's developing it already consistently. So pretty much 85% of the workload that was happening just is vanishing, right? So this is the seismic shift that has happened, right? So this is going to touch every one of our software teams. It's just a matter of time, and the matter of time is not decades, the matter of time is months, right? This is exactly what's happening. The big techs are already seeing this, feeling this. You're seeing in the news on how this whole layoffs are happening. So we as leaders, we need to really now adopt and adapt, right? So, okay, the most junior role is gone. AI agents can do it for you, so the senior developer can do it, but the senior developer also, code compliance, I don't need it. So once you see this, what's the next most personal question that will come into your mind? Mera kya hoga, Kalia? Right? So where do I fit in this picture, right? So you need to take this into context as to what are the set of things that moves a person from a developer to a full-fledged software engineer, right? This is a transformation that you need to have within of your teams, within of your organizations. So next 2-3 slides, what I'm covering, covers specifically towards the solutioning aspect. It covers towards what are the ingredients that you need to gain to be this 15% rather than the 85% which is already tagged with an expiration date right now, right? So let's talk about the 3 different aspects, right? I really keep repeating what Mr. Shijo Joseph mentioned in terms of we don't need coders, right? So the coder was the bottom 2 segments that we saw in the pyramid. So what is the difference between a coder and a full-fledged software engineer, right? So these are the 3 main ingredients that allows you to shift, right? So we spoke about in the previous panel systems engineers, right? Each of this comes into this aspect. Let's talk about first a product understanding. So every software developer in your organization who's involved in any part of your software development lifecycle should understand the end-to-end product, how it works. I will give an example in each of these 3 in the next slide, but if you don't understand the end-to-end product, it doesn't matter if you have a plane that can go supersonic if you don't know how to fly it, right? So you need to basically be able to ask the right questions. You need to basically understand what is it that we're trying to deliver. Second is a platform expertise, system expertise, various different, synonyms over here. You need to know the system that you are developing the software on and how to fine-tune your software to that area. If you are an embedded software developer, SDV, if you are a cloud developer as part of the cloud systems, getting in the digital twin, if you are a person visualizing that, the digital twin onto the onto a screen on a phone or a laptop, you need to know what different platforms you're operating in, right? And the third part is, of course, the systems design. How are each of these modules put together? You need to have clarity around in it so that you can use the right AI. So in your own organizations, if you are not seeing fast enough adoption of AI tools, take it, these three ingredients are missing from the team who's trying to adopt it. One of these three missing, then you cannot use AI tools to the further fullest extent, right? Because it's just like what I told earlier, right? If you are in a cockpit that in a car, and if you don't know how to drive, it's useless for you. If you're in a cockpit in a plane, if you don't know how to take off, you can't do anything with it, right? Though you have the best of the equipment. Same thing, if you have all the AI tools given to your teams are not using it, that's because these three ingredients are missing in their minds. So let's go further with one example. I'm going to just take one example to further elaborate on this three aspects so that you can actually, get to the detailed colors on how this means in action on an everyday, right? Let's take one example. I'll just take the most common example. I want to have a storage on the cloud. I just want to have a storage in the cloud. Now, if I do not know what the storage is being used for, a storage can be used to store documents. It can be used to store IoT data that your car is sending, which is a time stream data that is constantly feeding in. It can be stored for media files, for a Netflix, like a streaming solution. Each of these use cases have a very wide, different understanding, user experience that we want to create, right? So if you don't really know the end-to-end use case as what the purpose of this solution, how it's going to be used, then you do not have an idea on how to build the rest of the system, which comes into here, right? So if you now have this magical AI tool, the most, Claude that is trained on everything else with a GPT privately tuned in your organization, you still need to ask, what are the platform solutions I can use? And you need to still basically be able to take the recommendations from AI or make a decision on which one you'll use. These are all different storage solutions that are there. Which one will I use it for my solution? If I'm a media streaming solution, I need to have sequential data access. If I'm an IoT solution, I need to basically have fast write access. If I'm a document store, then it's random access, but once I access the file, that entire file, I'm going to download it and use it, right? So each of these are very different patterns, and you need to have different storage solutions for each of these. So if you don't understand the use case, and if you don't understand the platform expertise, then AI is not there to help you, right? So on the other hand, if you have it, then you basically use it, adopt it, and transform what's happening in the organization. The last but not the least, the systems design, right? The systems design is, okay, now I have all the best tools, I know which one to use, how to use, and I exactly know what is the kind of usage patterns I need to follow. Now that I have these usage patterns that I need to follow, I need to still do proper functional partitioning, right? I need to do proper functional partitioning. Where do I cache? How does my authentication work? If I'm doing a streaming, storage where I'm streaming in media, I want to prefetch and cache it on my phone. If it's an IoT streaming, then I want to basically, cache it in the server so that my device doesn't have to wait for a slow response from the server. So how do each of these functional partitionings work? That is something that is important in your system design. So if your engineers cannot talk all these three, then you need to step in to figure out what is the area of deficit that you need to cover so the team becomes the top 15%, right? And then it magically transforms further from there, where you can get additional productivity, additional quality improvements, timeline improvements, all of that follows directly from there on, right? So with that, I conclude. So this is really, I think as industry leaders that we are all here, it is something that we need to first adopt, adapt, understand it ourselves, and enable our teams to transform this, right? So otherwise, it will be just another passing window. Somebody's doing great. I don't know why my team is not doing it. We'll be stuck with that. With that, I end my time. Thank you, folks.